Good afternoon and welcome to a new episode. Today we are going to talk about something that is quite hot in the .NET industry or .NET world, which is all the buzzwords around CQRS and clean architecture. Usually when I work, I have something that to listen. If it's a podcast, a video, music, whatever. Today I was on my zone coding and went to YouTube and I saw this and said, okay, let's just take a look at this video. I think it was published like 3 hours ago or something like that. And I wanted to address something that I saw here. There are so many things in this video to talk. I'm just going to be pinpointing a couple of them. This video is from Milan. I hope that I'm saying the name correctly. If I'm not, please forgive me, Milan. Nothing personal about it. So what I would like to talk about first is the intent of the video. I will press play and let's start talking about that.
How do you implement the query side of the clean architecture? Are you
So is the video going to talk about EF core in the CQRS query side, or is it going to talk about the clean architecture? This is why I referred at the beginning that the .NET world likes to talk about all of these fancy words: CQRS, clean architecture, dependency injection, and all of them are mixed constantly. Application layer, domain layer, blah 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 blah. If we don't have consistency of what we are talking in the community, we are going to make a huge ball of mess. So what are we going to talk about, Milan? Is it going to be CQRS? Is it going to be clean architecture? Is it going to be persistence agnostic? Let's try to make that clear.
depending directly on EF core or SQL, or are you making your queries completely persistence ignorant? In this video, we're going to explore what options we have and what are the pros and cons of each approach.
Good. So the first thing that we see on the code that he has is that he has implemented the solution, or the solution is implemented, not that he did this. The solution is implemented with medial R. I see there is a application DB context here. That is an interface, so it's not the actual EF core object. So I suspect that this I application DB context lives somewhere between application or persistence. I don't know. That for me is the first red flag. Just seeing code that introduces an interface above EF core, for me it's just like, no, this is something to worry about. Why? Because EF core is already an abstraction on top of something, and we put another abstraction, then another abstraction, and this is what the .NET community does a lot. It's just like, let's put something on top of something on top of something, so we make sure that another thing works. We have the tools there. Let's use them for the purpose that they were built. So if I see that someone creates an interface on top of the application context, for me that's a red flag. Good that he going to address this, right?
Let's first take a look at the get order query handler implemented example. Here we are using the I application DB context, multiple paradigms mixed in the same project.
He ended up talking about mixing paradigms, and I think he refers to this, like there is EF core mix with this interface and then mix with this handler, and he tries to solve it. How does he solve it? He
by creating an order service.
He's going to create an order service,
order read service,
first,
so it's more obvious
to inject the service into this handler. So he creates an iOrder service, injects the iOrder service, and replaces the code that was here and puts the code into the service. Basically, it's just like, let's move the code from here to another place and let's just put something in the middle. Why? I don't know. He throws an exception if it doesn't find anything, which is possible. I mean, it's possible that you go on to try to find something and it's not there. So throwing an exception because there is something missing on the database, it's kind of suspicious to throw an exception on that. So he goes and implements this, If you want to take a look at the video, I'm gonna leave the link below. What he does is he creates this order service where he puts both methods, because he has a get order and a get order summary. He puts both of the things there. So then I wonder, is this video about CQRS or not? Or are we gonna evolve through that? Okay, let's continue, we move forward. And at the end, what he does is he renames the iOrder service into iOrder read service to be more clear the intention of what it is. That's good, yeah, good intentions. And then he injects, and as we can see here, there is always in this code another .NET pitfall. .NET developers, and I also do this, or I used to do that a lot, which is, let's put an interface on top of everything. Let's put an interface on top of repositories, on top of services, on top of everything. Why? Because we can mock the unit test. So we have to unit test our database, we have to unit test everything. And that sometimes that hurts a lot. Hurts a lot because it's a lot of effort that is not necessary. We have integration tests, so there is no need to put an interface to test everything. And at the end, it's just like a lot of code, and just keep throwing code that is more difficult to maintain, and it will create a lot of burden on the new developer that is going to join to understand why do we have all of this. I'm not saying do not create interfaces. I'm just saying we need to be mindful what interfaces do we want. Usually we want interfaces for things that we cannot mock. But because we're using MediaR and because we're using anti-framework core, there is no problem in this. So he goes and deals with this get order summary query handler, and that's exactly the same. Removes the iApplication DB context and replace that with the iOrder service. And what he ended up doing in the last part of the video is he splits the iOrder read service into two services. So he splits that into iGetOrder summary and iGetOrder, and implements both. So he starts having the MediaR request handler that receives an interface on an application context. In order to solve that problem, he creates an interface that has both methods. And in order to solve that, then he creates two different interfaces, always implementing classes. He then addresses this and says, if we have two classes, the problem is that we have two classes and we need to maintain more code. Yes, and if on top of that we put an interface, we need to maintain more code. But he also says that it's good because then there is separation of responsibilities. I think that probably the intent of this video is to make you think about what you want to do. But I don't understand if it's about clean architecture, if it's about CQRS, about what it is. But the main and biggest point that I see on this video is that the misconception on using MediaR mixed with services and talking about agnosticism of things. MediaR implements a pattern called mediator. When we read about what the mediator pattern solves, it basically removes the coupling between two objects. And it should be possible to change the interactions independently without changing anything. So the MediaR library, it's already giving us that agnosticism that we are looking for. There is no need to create another service, to create another persistence layer, to add more code and to create more problems. So to all .NET dev devs that are new and are looking at Milan's video, I will tell them, please stop the video, think for 5 minutes, and think what the MediaR library is giving to you. And it's giving exactly this. It's giving you a decoupling between what you want and who is going to give it to you. You don't need to add another layer under that to be more agnostic. So he implements this, he explains what he's doing, and he ends up asking, what do you prefer to do? I say, I don't prefer to do anything of this. Why? Because we can go and be more simple. Simplicity will save you time, will allow you to go to production safer, will allow you to test less things, and will give you more confidence. You're going to be more productive if instead of creating 5 classes, you have 2. And if you test them in the right way, you're gonna save time and less problems for your team. So I'm not a fan of all the buzzwords of making clean architecture, having 5 projects, 2 projects, blah, blah, blah. I'm just gonna explain this in a simple project that probably doesn't have the best architecture or best layer structure, but what I want to make sure is that we understand that we have a query that is asking us to return an order from our domain model, and immediate R is going to allow us to have a handler for that. Here is where we become agnostic of the persistence. We don't need another persistence agnosticism on top of this. So if you can see here, to return the order, I have a persistence EF core, which is a folder that implements a DB context that has orders. Then my order summary receives a Dapper database that returns an order summary that I can then return back. So here we use the mediator handler to glue things between our persistence and the layer that is asking for it. And that's perfectly normal and is the intended use of immediate R. If you look at the code that he ends up doing, are 3 classes that all of them are one line that call each other, and they don't have any value. It's just one line under the other line. Here there is some meaning, and it makes sense that directly inject whatever you need and do not inject abstractions or interfaces that you don't need. Other thing that I saw on the video, this exactly here. So probably he didn't do this on purpose, and he didn't notice when he was creating the video or editing it, is one-liners that have code that is async and await. This is completely unnecessary. This is creating a burden on the execution that it's completely unnecessary. If you are not awaiting to do something, just remove the async and await keywords. In this case, because my persistent has a model and I need to map it to the other model, I have to do await. But if I go to this method, I have my connection from Dapper and I query. Oh, I need await here because I have to open the connection. But let's go to the EF database. Obviously I have nothing here and I have nothing here. That's not a good example. But yeah, here, I don't need to do an await here. If I do this, I'm just adding unnecessary await of the code. I don't need this await, I just remove it. Again, I know that my code is not the best one, but I wanted to make a statement and make clear that we don't need to over-engineer everything that we do. The important thing is to be clean, that we create code that we can maintain. If we add more abstractions on top of abstractions, it becomes extremely difficult to follow. It's already difficult to follow immediate R code, as people say. For me, it's not. But we need to be pragmatic and as concise as possible with the code that we build. There's going to be more of these videos addressing a lot of these sort of good techniques that end up filling the code of legacy code that is really difficult to maintain. I have seen this a lot over the internet. I see this a lot on LinkedIn. I see this a lot on YouTube. I'm going to take the time slowly and go address to provide a better insight. And obviously this is my opinion. It might be wrong, and I would be happy to have a talk with Milan on a stream face to face, and we can see why my approach is different from his and which one is better. We can do a stream and you guys end up deciding what do you prefer. Thank you, and if you haven't, please smash that subscribe button. There's gonna be coming in the next couple of days.